it was a group that asked you to manage them.
The Track Masters.
The Track Masters, yeah. And that was sort of your entryway into sort of this managerial, profession. And then you met the, rest in peace, the legendary Chris Lighty. Yep. And then collectively, Violator was formed.
He had Violator already, right? He was doing Rush management. And he had Violator Records, right? So then when Rush folded and Leor and Russell went over to Def Jam to run Def Jam, they brought Chris over. He was the president of Def Jam. And there were all these acts from Rush that had no management now because they had disbanded Rush management. So Busta had just left Leaders of the New School. There was Tribe Called Quest. Some of the acts were signed to Violator Records, like Warren G, Foxy Brown. And then Chris, in his transition, right, and he and I had met through Trackmasters and the A-Team, which was the group I was managing. They were very good friends, and he and I developed a relationship. I was working with Chi Ali and some of the acts that he had under management. And at that point, we started releasing records, right? We'd spent 2 years beating the pavement, not a dollar between the five of us. It was four of the guys at the time. And when the records that they had been working on started to hit, right? It was unfortunate because then all of a sudden the industry, the vultures started swooping in, highlighting for the guys, well, did he really write on that song? And he wasn't in the studio that night when we did that song. And so unfortunately the guys, it created a little tension and they decided that they wanted to go their separate ways. And so I was kind of at this crossroads and Chris was like, yo, Rush, I'm leaving, going over to Def Jam. I've got a lot of, to figure out with this transition. While you're trying to figure out what you're doing, come over and help me with the transition, right? So I went over there with him to Def Jam. And as we were setting up Violator Records, I realized oh, wait, there's all these acts that you're still kind of tied to, still trying to figure out how to help them. Why don't we just form Violator Management, right? And do that simultaneously. And he was like, you like it, I love it, run with it, let's go, right? So started out at Def Jam, little corner office, no windows, Violator Management. I remember Leor calling and I'm like, Violator Management? What? Who the fuck is this? There is no Violator Management, So that was like the beginnings of that, and fast forward, did that for 20-something years. I remember calling Missy. She was one of the first artists that we were taking on outside of the core artists we already had. And Chris was like, yo, did you hear that girl on that, she had done that Gina Thompson record? He's like, find her. We should manage her. Tracked her down. She was in a hotel room, called. I was like, hi, this is Mona Scott. At the time, wasn't young yet. With Violator, I would love to talk to you about management. She was like, who? What? Nah, I'm not interested. Click. Yeah, she didn't want to be an artist at the time. She just did that one record, but she didn't want to be an artist. And then fast forward, Sylvia Rohn was great about convincing her to be an artist.
Because she was signed to Elektra Records.
Well, before that, that's what I'm saying. Sylvia talked her into signing to Elektra by promising her own label. Because Missy was really passionate about writing and producing and developing other talent. She was disillusioned, right? Because when she did that Gina Thompson record, they swapped her out. They didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, they wanted to swap her out in the video and all that stuff. So she was at a point in her life where she was just like, look, I love music. I know I'm talented. I don't want to do this artist thing. I'm tired of, you know what I'm saying? She had done a Raven Simone record that happened in. And so Sylvia saw that and was like, guess what? If you give me an album, I'll give you a label. And that's what made her. And then Sylvia calls me, because at the time she had Busta signed and we're managing Busta, and was like, I got this new female artist I want you to manage, right? I'm going to send you down to Palm Springs. Missy was on the Little tour. She was like, I'm going to send you down to Palm Springs so you could go and, meet her and stuff. I go down there, and for 4 days I'm following this girl around, and she's completely ignoring me. Like, when I say ignoring me, I'm talking about like we sitting in the back of the car. She's like, yeah, she right here. I don't know why. And I don't want a manager. Yeah, she here. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck, And on the last day, I was like, you know what? I'm good. Here. And I set up some stuff for her. And before I walked away, she was like, yo, what's your name again? Mona? Yeah, hold up. I want to talk to you. And that was 27 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And you're still managing her today, which is...
Oh, absolutely.
Which is amazing, because the thing is this. Obviously, we're talking about the birth of hip-hop, right? And...
Certainly the heyday, for sure.
Well, the heyday, for sure. And for me, a lot of it has to do... that cannot get lost in this conversation is you are a woman in this male-dominated field where there situations where like you were disrespected, sexually harassed. Like, did you have to deal with some of those things as a woman?
It's interesting because I would never discount. It was completely, a much more misogynistic space than it even is today, right? There was no Me Too. There was no, we was hoes and bitches. Do you know what I'm saying? And that
in front
was,
of your face.
Oh, absolutely. Because it was almost like a term of endearment. Right? That's just like, yo, this bitch crazy, but like in your face talking about you, not some other bitch, and that was part of Missy doing that song, She's a Bitch, and everyone was up in arms, and we were like, oh no, we gonna run with this because we're going to own this phrase. If this, is what you choose to call me because I refuse to allow you to steamroll and, have your way, then yes. All day, every day, I am a bitch, So...
And you got called that, I'm sure, a lot.
It's interesting, right? Because I also am of the thinking that you set the tone, right? With your expectations. Yes, people will do what they're going to do and they're going to say what they're going to say. But I also think that you have to present yourself in a way where it is understood that this is unacceptable. And that was even more challenging in a time when, there was not supposed to be a voice, right? So I operate with blinders to a certain extent. I walk in a room, right? I'm a person in that room, not a woman in that room. Like, that's not where my head is at. I'm not saying that that's not what the reality was. I'm not thinking about that. Because I'll tell you something. In retrospect, sometimes I was like, well, shit, why didn't anybody hit on me, damn it? What was wrong with me? Because it did, not that I didn't get compliments, you know what I'm saying? Not that, but there was an unspoken understanding, right?
Yeah.
That, because I never presented myself as anything other than somebody who was here to handle the business, right? I'm not hanging out if I'm at the party because it's a work event, one of my clients is performing, or I'm here networking. I'm not here having a good time. Not that I have any judgment because that just was not my thing at the time. I was hyper-focused, right? So when I walked in a room, the conversation was this. When I, was in a space, my presence said everything you needed to know about, what I was about.